One of the hardest realities archaeologists face is accepting that some discoveries left behind by ancient civilizations may never be fully explained. Certain artifacts and structures they uncover simply don't fit within the history we've been taught, while the true purpose of others remains an enduring mystery. Despite decades of research, excavation, and scientific analysis, many of these discoveries continue to raise far more questions than they answer. In this video, we'll explore 15 of the most mysterious ancient discoveries that still no one can explain. Let's begin with number 15. The perplexing core drills of Giza people often focus on the pyramids themselves, but some of the smallest details scattered across Giza create the biggest questions. Hidden within blocks of granite and basalt are drill holes and saw marks that seem strangely familiar, almost as though they belonged inside a modern workshop instead of an ancient monument. Among the most debated discoveries are hollow stone cores carrying spiral grooves winding around their surface. During the 19th century, Flinders Petrie examined those patterns and reached a conclusion that has never faded from discussion. The cutting appeared far deeper and faster than simple copper tools should have produced, even when abrasive sand was added. Traditional explanations argue that patience alone achieved the result. But many researchers remain dissatisfied because the marks appear unusually consistent from beginning to end. Spend enough time studying those stone cores, and the question almost asks itself: were ancient Egyptian craftsmen working with methods we no longer understand? Or is something important still missing from history's story? Number 14. The Bo people and China's hanging coffins. This one is insane. High above the cliffs of southern China, ancient wooden coffins still cling to the rock face, supported by little more than beams driven into the stone. These rare burials have long been linked to the Bo people, a culture believed to have disappeared after the Ming Dynasty. For centuries, almost nothing was known about who they really were. That mystery has begun to fade after scientists examined the genomes of 11 individuals recovered from the hanging coffins and compared them with ancient Dina from across Asia. The results revealed strong genetic connections, confirming that these burials truly belong to the Bo people. Even more surprising, some of the ancient remains dated back nearly 12,200 years and shared close ancestry with populations from the Yellow River, Tibet, and Northeast Asia. Similar links were also identified with communities in Thailand that practiced log coffin burials. Rather than living in isolation, these discoveries suggest the Bo people were part of an extensive network of cultures whose connections stretched much farther than historians once imagined. Number 13. The mummified Buddhist monk well. Most people spend a lifetime trying to avoid death. But there are a handful of Buddhist monks who chose to welcome it in a way impossible to comprehend today. Their ambition reached far beyond ordinary faith. They believed complete spiritual perfection could preserve both body and soul long after life had ended. Reaching that goal demanded years of relentless discipline. Daily meals gradually disappeared until little remained besides roots, bark, seeds, and wild nuts, stripping every trace of fat from the body. During the final stage, they drank tea brewed from the poisonous lacquer tree, allowing toxic compounds to spread through their tissues and discourage insects after death. When everything was finished, each monk entered a cramped wooden chamber carrying only a bell. One ring every day assured those outside that life continued. Silence signaled the end. Years later, the chamber was opened. If decay had failed to take hold, the monk was honored as a living Buddha. Lu Quan rested unnoticed inside a statue for centuries before modern scans finally exposed his astonishing secret. Number 12. The Sibudu Cave Arrowhead's human history has a habit of surprising us whenever we grow too confident about what our ancestors could or could not accomplish. Sibudu Cave in South Africa is one of those places that quietly overturns long-held assumptions. In 2008, researchers identified tiny stone points believed to have served as arrowheads nearly 70,000 years ago, placing sophisticated hunting technology far earlier than many scholars once accepted. Yet those weapons tell only part of the story. The cave also preserved traces of animal blood, adhesive made from plant gum and red ochre, fragments of bone, and carefully prepared bedding layered with medicinal plants that naturally discouraged insects. None of that came from guesswork. Producing the adhesive demanded precise control over temperature because overheating or underheating ruined the mixture completely. That level of care speaks volumes about the people who lived there. They were constantly testing, adapting, and passing knowledge from one generation to the next. Number 11. The ancient Chinese medical dolls. As long as humans have existed, illness has been impossible to avoid. Yet for many women in imperial China, speaking openly about their bodies was often more difficult than the illness itself. Social customs discouraged private conversations with male physicians, forcing families to find another way. That quiet solution came in the form of small medical dolls, usually carved from ivory or jade. During an appointment, a woman simply pointed to the part of the figure where she felt pain instead of describing it aloud. Some consultations became even more unusual. The patient remained hidden behind a bamboo screen, revealing only her hands while using the doll to communicate with the doctor. Wealthy households sometimes sent servants carrying these figures ahead of the visit so the physician could understand the problem before meeting the patient. The tradition first appeared during the Ming Dynasty and continued well into the 20th century. Such a simple object carried something far greater than carved ivory. It preserved privacy, dignity, and trust when custom allowed very little room for any of them. Number 10. The skull with the metal plate. Nearly 2,000 years ago, deep within ancient Peru, one man endured a head injury so catastrophic that death would have seemed almost certain. Yet the evidence left behind tells a far different story. Skilled hands carefully removed shattered bone before fitting a thin piece of shaped metal over the opening, creating one of history's most puzzling medical procedures. Whether the metal came from a ceremonial object or another crafted item remains uncertain, but the precision of the work suggests knowledge that feels astonishingly advanced for its time. Even more convincing is what the skull itself reveals. Fresh bones slowly formed around the metal, showing that the man's body accepted the implant and that he lived long enough to heal. His elongated skull, intentionally shaped during childhood, also hints that he belonged to the upper ranks of society, where the finest healers were likely reserved for the privileged. One silent question refuses to disappear. Who first discovered knowledge capable of saving a life like this? Number 9. Ha'amonga, a Maui far out in the Pacific, on the island of Tongatapu, stands a monument that quietly challenges almost every expectation people have about ancient Polynesian engineering. Known as Ha'amonga a Maui, the structure consists of two towering coral limestone pillars supporting a massive horizontal stone, each piece carefully shaped so they lock together with surprising precision. Nothing about its construction feels accidental. Historians generally attribute it to the reign of the Tongan ruler Tuitui around the 13th century, describing it as a ceremonial gateway connected with the royal compound. Even so, moving stones weighing several dozen tons across a low coral island without cranes, iron equipment, or extensive forests remains difficult to picture. Another layer of mystery comes from its relationship with the sun. During certain times of the year, the monument appears to align with the solstices, hinting that its builders possessed careful astronomical knowledge alongside exceptional practical skill. Number 8. Smithsonian mound builder remains during the 19th century. Expanding settlements across the Ohio and Mississippi valleys uncovered thousands of ancient earthworks built long before European arrival. As excavations continued, newspapers eagerly reported unusual discoveries from the burial mounds. Some articles described skeletons said to stand 7 or even 8 feet tall, while others mentioned oversized skulls, broad jawbones, or unusually large teeth. Many of those accounts quickly spread across the country, adding to the growing fascination surrounding the mysterious mound builders. According to reports, some remains and artifacts were eventually transferred to institutions, including the Smithsonian, for study and preservation. Over time, stories emerged claiming the giant skeletons had disappeared or were deliberately concealed. Historians point out that many 19th-century newspaper reports contained exaggerations or unsupported conclusions, and no verified evidence confirms a hidden race of giants. Even so, the reports themselves became part of American folklore, leaving behind a debate that still refuses to die. Number 7. The Blombos Cave Paint Studio. Many history books once suggested that symbolic thinking and artistic expression first flourished in Europe about 40,000 years ago. Blombos Cave in South Africa tells a far older and far more intriguing story. Excavations uncovered what researchers describe as a pigment processing workshop dating to roughly 100,000 years ago. Scattered across the site were abalone shells used as containers, grinding stones, bone implements, and pieces of red ochre engraved with carefully arranged geometric patterns. Together, they reveal a process rather than scattered accidents. Minerals were collected, crushed, mixed, and prepared with obvious intention before being stored for later use. The pigment may have decorated bodies, objects, or ceremonial items, although its exact purpose remains uncertain. Whatever those ancient artists intended, the evidence points toward minds already capable of planning, creativity, and symbolic communication on a sophisticated level. Blombos quietly dismantled the old belief that our distant ancestors spent their lives focused only on survival. They were also expressing ideas, identity, and meaning through color thousands of generations ago. All right, now, let's head over to Number 6. Ponce Monolith of Tiahuanaco. Among the windswept ruins of Tiwanaku in western Bolivia stands a stone figure that rarely receives the attention it deserves. The Ponce monolith rises more than 11 feet high. Carved from a single block of red sandstone and covered with finely executed geometric designs that reward every closer look. Rather than appearing decorative alone, the carvings seem carefully organized, giving the monument an almost calculated character. Its setting only deepens the fascination. Tiwanaku rests at an altitude exceeding 12,000 feet. Where working enormous stones would have demanded relentless effort under thin mountain air. Just beyond it lies Puma Punku, whose sharply shaped blocks continue to inspire debate over the techniques used to produce them. Archaeologists place the flourishing of this civilization between roughly at 500 and 1,000, although alternative theories suggest a much greater antiquity. Whatever the true age may be, the craftsmanship still leaves one lingering thought behind. How did ancient builders achieve such precision with the tools history attributes to them? Well, let us know. Number 5. The Geta Lion of Ethiopia. High upon Chikabere Hill rests a stone lion that has quietly guarded its secrets for far longer than anyone can measure. Scholars have debated its origin since the 19th century, yet the Geta lion continues to resist every confident explanation. No inscription identifies the sculptor, no historical account describes its creation, and no surviving tradition agrees completely on its purpose. Some researchers believe the monument simply celebrates the lion, an enduring emblem of strength throughout Ethiopian history. Others suspect the sculpture carried a deeper spiritual meaning, perhaps serving a role similar to protective monuments found elsewhere in the ancient world. 3 carved monograms appear upon its paws, including one featuring a Christian cross, hinting at a connection with Ethiopia's early Christian kingdom during the 4th century. Even then, the carving itself may be considerably older. That uncertainty is precisely what keeps drawing attention back to this lonely guardian. Centuries have passed, countless theories have appeared, yet the Geta lion still refuses to reveal whose hands first shaped its silent face. Number 4. Naphtali long before Egypt's Great Pyramids dominated the horizon. Another place had already begun measuring the heavens. Hidden beneath the sands of southern Egypt, Naphtali reaches back to around 7000 BC, making it one of the oldest known stone complexes ever created. At first glance, the scattered stones appear almost too ordinary to deserve attention. Spend a little longer with them, though, and a different picture begins to emerge. Their arrangement has been linked to the rising of Sirius, the constellation Orion, and recurring movements across the night sky that unfold over long periods. That alone raises difficult questions. The people connected with this site are generally described as wandering cattle herders. Yet nothing about this careful layout feels spontaneous. Every stone required planning, transport, placement, and shared knowledge preserved through countless generations. Such work speaks of patience, cooperation, and an understanding of the heavens that seems centuries ahead of its time. Number 3. The bog bodies of Denmark remains preserved inside Europe's peat bogs have fascinated archaeologists for decades, becoming known as the famous bog bodies. Denmark is home to 2 of the most remarkable examples. Toland Man and Grauball Man, both found when workers digging peat came across human remains instead. Archaeologists soon realized these bodies had survived in astonishing condition. Toland Man has been dated to around 2,400 years ago, and is believed to have been between 30 and 40 years old when he died. Grauball Man is preserved so incredibly well that strands of his hair are still visible today. The oxygen-free environment of the bog protected their muscles, skin, and even internal features, allowing researchers to examine details that usually disappear over time. Most evidence suggests they were victims of Iron Age ritual sacrifice rather than ordinary burials, especially since many objects were also deliberately placed into the bogs. CT scans continue revealing new details about their age, health, injuries, and final moments, while the true reason they were sacrificed remains uncertain. Number 2. The Barabar Caves. Standing outside the Barabar Caves, nothing prepares you for what waits beyond the entrance. Solid granite gives way to chambers so flawlessly finished that many visitors stop speaking the moment they step inside. Light glides across the walls instead of breaking against them, creating the strange impression that the stone was somehow melted before hardening once again. Officially, these caves belong to the Mauryan period during the 3rd century BC, carved with iron tools and polished through endless effort. Yet that explanation leaves many people unconvinced. Granite ranks among the toughest natural materials on Earth, and shaping it usually leaves countless imperfections behind. Here, those expected scars are almost impossible to find. The mystery deepens when sound begins to move through the chambers. Even the quietest whisper lingers, while a single clap rolls through the passage with astonishing clarity. Whether the builders possessed forgotten techniques or simply unmatched skill remains uncertain. Number 1. The sarcophagus sealed with lead ancient graves rarely stay untouched for very long. Time, treasure hunters, and invading armies usually see to that. This burial somehow escaped them all. While construction crews worked beneath the streets of Budapest, they uncovered a Roman sarcophagus dating back around 1700 years. Archaeologists approached it expecting another empty coffin, only to discover something almost never seen. Thick metal clamps secured the heavy lid, while molten lead had been poured along every edge. creating an airtight seal that survived century after century. Breaking through it revealed the resting place of a young woman surrounded by delicate glass vessels, finely crafted jewelry, bronze figures, coins, and fragments of luxurious cloth woven with gold thread. Every object pointed toward wealth, influence, and careful respect from those who buried her. Yet the most important detail was missing. No inscription carried her identity, and no surviving record explains who she was or why such extraordinary care protected her final resting place. Some mysteries refuse to surrender their names. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.